Well, I was in London on Thursday because I was reading ICA. And they got me a hotel room. And I've never had a hotel. Well, obviously I've stayed in a hotel, but like I've never had one, bought for me by an institution. And I left my boobs on the side table when I left, so I'm sort of there. It's actually the second time I've lost boobs. When I was moving out of our house, we found one underneath the sofa cushion. And then I dared my housemate to eat it. This isn't a stand-up, so I don't know why I'm doing it. This is a poem about Jeffrey Epstein. Okay. Shall I go back to less edgy material? It's called Backwards Priests. A body bubbles up from the bottom of the river. I could take a plane to see you, but what else? What else? I could take a plane to see you, but what next? But where next? Then the plane crashes into a building. Then I didn't get a chance to read something special to you or to hold your hand, because you see, the plane crashed into a building, and it wasn't my fault, but in the moments before the plane crashed into the building, I couldn't help but take responsibility for it. For the fact that the plane was crashing into the building, because I knew you would feel guilty about the whole thing. I wanted to unburden you. I wanted to kneel down over you and slowly pull the guilt out through the hole you made in your stomach, pull the guilt out with my hands, wearing gloves, and eat your guilt, and eat your guilt, put it in my mouth and try very, very, very hard to swallow it. We both know when I vanish, I throw it up out of your window. All of this is happening in the moment before the plane crashes into the building with me on it, but you aren't on it. You are in America, you are America, you are my America, my newfound land, and I am a plane, a building, a car in a tunnel, every little thing that has never felt right, seemed right. I am a dead billionaire paedophile. I am emails. I am evidence of collusion. I am Russia. I am a Berlin Wall. I am showing my workings. I am Stanley Kubrick. If I tell you I faked it, because I felt the need to. I didn't want you to be sad or think you couldn't please me anymore. You can still please me. It was just that one time I knew you'd feel bad if I didn't, so I acted like I had. I'm sorry, that was dishonest of me. That was not a real American flag, and it wasn't really blowing in the wind, and a body bubbles up from the river. It is not the body of anybody you knew. Yes, don't you understand? His house fell on him, and where were we all then? Where were you? Looking at some body which had bubbled up out of the river, and it wasn't even the body of somebody you knew. It was a complete stranger. And where were you? You were there, and his house was falling in on him. A brick struck his skull, and he died. And where were you? Looking at some nobody in the river's body, just looking at it. There was nothing you could do to help it, because it was a dead body. You could have been there. You could have helped him get out of his collapsing house alive, but you didn't, because you weren't there, and now he is dead, and it's not your fault. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying you should have done more. And now you're telling me I have to listen to what you told me backwards, sync it up to The Shining to get the full experience, to get your guilt, to get the things under the house in focus. No, the house collapsing wasn't caused by a plane. I don't know where you got that impression. It was the landlord. She knew there was structural issues, see, but she never thought this would happen. She just got a man in to paint over them, and now he's dead. And was she on a plane crashing into a building? Were you? Were you speaking backwards? Were you worshipping? Who told you that? Where did they tell you that? Who told you that? Where did they tell you that? Why would someone tell you that? Who told you that? I demand to know. You have grabbed hold of me, holding my little body in your hands, pulling the guilt out of your stomach. The guilt is warm and wet when you pull it out from my stomach. You push it into my mouth, pressing it down, pressing it in. I am choking, trying to be sick, trying to throw the guilt up, but you are pushing. You're pushing it further down until I pass out. When I wake up, I feel guilty. I feel so guilty I can't move, tied to an armchair, eyes wide shut, playing backwards over the shining, playing forwards, endless rooms, encrypted patterns. No, this isn't a plane, is it? This isn't a building, is it? Am I a building? Am I in a building? Do I have to pay someone to pull your guilt from me, to wipe the water from my forehead and pull it back in a river, to take me slowly through the process, unlearning everything that has happened until there is nothing left, until it's just a piece of red string or even less, until it's just a room, curtains, obscured faces, and speaking backwards priests. Is my shoelace undone? What is it? Should I do 2 more or 1 more? Because they're both quite chunky.
Do 2, Raddy.
Do 2? I spilled wine. It's really lovely to see Kat launch her book. I've been friends with Kat for some time. I don't know how long. Not as long as you might think, but an amount of time. And her presence has made my life so much brighter. She's really lovely. Okay, you don't need that stuff. This is a poem about sleeping with older women, and it's called It Only Happens. I'm not helping my reputation. It's called It Only Happens Once Every 100 Years. That's not. I realise that introduction puts that title in a different light. When can we see each other again? I don't want to break your heart, but when? If I have an anxiety attack in front of you, forget where I am, or you just walk away. The you in this is not the same you as was in the last or the next. The you is always changing. Sometimes it is me. Sometimes it is whoever is Prime Minister right now, or a guy that looked at my feet across the pub and wouldn't stop looking. She's in a really bad place right now, so please don't. The kids this year are all coming up in hives, rashes, all sorts of things, skin infections. It's totally unexplainable, divided. I live near a junior school. When I sit in the living room of my house, I can hear them crying in pain. I even think I can hear the sound of their fingernails itching their skin red raw. The worried parents are starting to keep their children home, but it doesn't seem to be infectious. It just seems to happen randomly, only to the children. The government gives a press release that says nothing because nobody knows anything. I see a toddler running down the street alone, screaming and scratching at her face until the flesh begins to tear. The blood runs down onto her white linen romper. I leave the house to try to help her, but her mum appears and pulls her away, giving me an evil look. The world is going to shit. In the midst of this chaos, I meet for drinks with a woman who tells me she is a mother. She's beautiful, but she says I must be dangerous because she wants to sleep with me. Her children have not yet shown the symptoms. She tries not to think about it. Afterwards, I say, when can we see each other again? See, I just miss you, okay? I just miss you. I don't want to break your heart, but I just... And she tells me she doesn't think that's a good idea. She thought I was 23, not 21. I wander down to the bus stop. There's a man asleep on the floor. I wake him so he doesn't miss his ride home, but he looks up at me and grabs my legs before falling back asleep. I message her to tell her I don't feel safe, but she never replies. In the strange days, I find myself suddenly in my bed with no sheets or pillowcase on. It's stripped bare. So am I. So are the walls. I can't remember if it has always been like this, or if something terrible has happened. Beneath my bed is a collection of animal bones. They have been dropped into bowls of maggots which have eaten away all the viscera, leaving them clean and pale and sickly looking. A bird skull, a mouse skull. Then on my shelf, pickled things. 4 rats joined at the hip. A fetus with open eyes floating wrapped in its own cord, with red blotches of irritation on its surface. A foot, amputated at the ankle. These are all things which originate from me. Everything I keep in my room comes from me. Everything I have reflects me in some way. I relate to everything, and their presence enriches my life. The value of owning things is that you own them and somebody else doesn't. These things are all just like me because the other people in my house do not have them, but I do, and I always will. I don't want to break your heart, but it's not okay to own things anymore. And when can we see each other again? See, I just miss you, and I don't want to break your heart, but I just miss you. When can we see each other again? Not now. I shouldn't have said that. I know, I want you to be around, and I just really miss you, and I'm really lonely, and I think it would be nice to see you again. I think it would be nice. I think it would be nice if you saw me again. I think it would be a good thing. I think it would be a good thing, and I miss you. And so when can we see each other again? No pressure, of course. And I don't sleep that night because I can hear a father howling at the end of my street, just howling. He doesn't stop. He sometimes tries to speak, but the words just are all blotched and wet, and they don't make sense. And when we see each other again, I want to bring you gifts. I want to bring you something horrible to make you squeal with happiness. If we never see each other again, how will we know what will make you squeal like that? There are children playing with a ball in the park who are not suffering from the pain, and they throw the ball at a child who is. The ball connects with a particularly red point on the child's chest. He falls to the ground screaming for his dad or mum, but they are somehow no longer around. They have gotten lost, and I miss your dog so much. She was really sweet. And they vanished. The child is alone apart from the other children who now poke at it. They poke him with a long stick. He cries. He won't stop crying. When can we see each other again? See, I just miss you, okay? And we can see we can see each other again soon, right? No, not now. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't want to break your heart. I just really want you around, and I just really miss you, and I'm sorry, and I think it would be a good thing. And when can we see each other again? No pressure, of course, and I didn't want you to feel pressure. I know everything's shit right now, and with you and with everything else, and it feels like the world is going to end any day now, and I'm scared. Maybe I just want someone to keep me company. If it does happen, not that I'm saying it will, and no pressure, of course. I'm really sorry. I'm just not thinking straight. You deserve way better than this. You really do, and you deserve the world. And just maybe I want to see you again, and the child is alone. I am alone. The sun is setting, although it's only midday in the height of summer. What is happening? Maybe it's happening again. Whatever it is. It only happens once every 100 years. First the children, now this. This is the day that it happens. So we have to find a safe place to hide, to wait out what will happen. The it that is going to happen, whatever it is. I don't know if we'll live through this. You keep shuddering in my arms, whispering, who will survive and what will be left of them? I don't know what to tell you. I'm wondering the same things, but if we do survive, then I think it might be nice to see each other again at some point soon. I'm usually much more tipsy than when I read, but this is my first glass of wine. This is my last poem. Thank you for having me read it, Press again. I loved doing this last time, and it's fun this time too. I also love it this time, the way I said that. Implied that I didn't, but I do. See, this is what happens when you... Ow, that was too hard. Why did I do that? This is about Adrian Rich. And it opens with a little quote from Harry Josephine Giles, which is, "And who are you? You sound like a cop. Your theory could easily be the theory of a cop. You see cops everywhere, which is how to see no cops at all. That isn't an answer. Correct. My grandfather is dead. I move out of my house, but I had nowhere to move into, so I'm sleeping in a friend's spare room for a few days. My grandfather is dead, my mother is coming on the train to visit me and give me, absurdly, his electric razor, which I do not want, but I sort of feel like I have to take it now it's been offered to me. My mother doesn't say when she is going to Brighton. I guess that she will be here at 11. I set my alarm for 11. I go to sleep. I wake up at 10 past 11, having slept through my alarm, but having been woken up by 10 missed calls, 10 texts, all from my mother, 2 from my dad saying that my mother is trying to get a hold of me, and 1 from my ex-housemate asking if I'm okay because my mother just called her. I get dressed. I rush out of the house. I ask my mother where she is. She isn't on a hill. The friend I'm living with is on a hill. My mother isn't responding. My mother isn't on a hill. I'm running down the hill. I'm trying to call my mother. She isn't answering. I see a church. I see my mother. She is sitting on the front steps of the church crying. I run to her. She looks at me and says, I am an instrument in the shape of a woman trying to translate pulsations into images for the relief of the body and the reconstruction of the mind. No, that's not right. That's not what she said. But it's sort of what everyone's always saying, really, isn't it? Endlessly. Just saying it, just charting distances, just measuring, just theorizing. This is all a really elaborate experiment, and you win a free iPad at the end. On the iPad, you look at porn. Do you see anything in the porn that reminds you of your everyday life? Please answer this to win a second free iPad. On the second free iPad, you can watch cop shows. Your whole family shows up. They are being arrested by another family who are almost identical to them. They are being arrested for stealing a car. Your uncle, who is a paedophile, is not being arrested for that. He actually isn't there. It's weird. He's the only family member who isn't there. On either side of the situation, it's like he knew this was going to happen. They paid him off with an iPad. And I am an instrument in the shape of a woman. You are a woman in the shape of an instrument. Too close to really take in what you are looking at. You are not looking at anything important. Really. I am a woman in the shape of a cop car. My lights flash sometimes and I scream too loud. I am a cop car in the shape of an instrument. And what kind of times are these that any instrument that simply says it is an instrument must legally be recognised as an instrument? I mean, really. You say you are a cop car, but have you ever really carried criminals inside of you? I have, and you will never understand that pain. Your lights are just plastic. You bought them at a shop. When I say Nino, I really fucking mean it. I mean, I'm authentic. Look at me. Authentic. Whereas you are raping the image of the cop car. Essentially, that's what you're doing. You don't even have any cops inside of you. There's nothing inside of you. I looked inside of you, and what was in there? No criminals, nothing. You will never know what it is like to be a real cop car. I do, and it's offensive that you'd even say you did. And Adrian Rich, a cop in a way, in a cop car that's sometimes very beautiful, but a cop all the same. What would she say? What is she arresting me for now? Why are these handcuffs so rusted? You know what to do with them, don't you? And she scrubs up well in the uniform, part of that great empire that stretches from sea to sea, reading me my rights, saying, men who have given up the supposed ultimate possession of manhood in a patriarchal society by self-castration. But what a castration, Adrian. What an amazing castration. You wouldn't understand how good it feels to be castrated or to castrate or to construct. Adrian, I wish you knew what it felt like, but you are a cop and therefore do not have feelings. You just pretend very well when you speak, because when you speak, beautiful things come out. But you are a cop, so they are only lies. I don't know who called you. Was it Professor? Am I being arrested for putting a sticker on the door now? What next? What's happening to free speech in this country? What next? I know my rights. That they're already protected under the Equality Act, and that any proposed reforms actually do not affect rights, read bathrooms, etc., but only to do with birth certificates. But even that's being killed, and you were trying to arrest my rights too. You never saw a thing you didn't want to arrest. And if you read Adrian Rich, you are not necessarily a cop, but if you played a cop in a film, you are a cop. If you watch cop shows, you are a cop. If you watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you are a cop. If you laughed at a gif of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, you are a cop. If you called the cops, then you're a cop. I watch Brooklyn Nine-Nine and cover my eyes at the parts where they do police work. I read Adrian Rich and cover my eyes when she tries to read me my rights. I am made of wicker and on fire, and there is a cop inside my brain being sacrificed. Where do you go? When you're a cop, where do you go? You sit outside a church. You run to a church. I'm running to a church. It isn't fair. God knows my name, which isn't fair. And it wasn't fair when you arrested me. God knows my name. My mother is sat on the steps outside a church, crying, and my grandfather died a few days ago. I don't have anywhere to live. My brother is a policeman. My dad is retired. My mother looks at me with red eyes. I've never seen her so fucking broken, and she looks at me and says, it isn't fair that you were late, and it isn't fair that he's dead. Thanks.